So what if you have a lot of resources if you're not resourceful? Even better, if you're someone who is extremely resourceful, it doesn't really matter, or you're much less hindered by whatever lack of resources you may have, or you might even perceive yourself to have. See, this is the thing that I have seen time and time again in working with people who are exceptional and people who kind of aren't. Those who really outcompete all of their peers and those who kind of don't. Those who outcompete, it's not always that they just happen to have more. Yes, sometimes they do. But a very strong trait is that they're better at using whatever they've got, and they're better at realizing the resources that are available to them that many other people may not have even seen existed. And I'm going to give you a very simplistic example of this, a very simplistic illustration of this from a recent session with a client, and then we'll extrapolate further from there. I was working with a client, I think it was earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, and he was talking a lot about the importance of really, look, we boil it down. This dude needs a holiday. He needs a break. He's been pushing too hard for too long. He's kind of burnt out. He needs a fucking rest. But the things that he was looking for, it needed to be quite rejuvenating, and he was looking for a new, novel experience. He's a bit stir crazy, things have been a bit tough, and you know what, screw it, he deserves a break. And when we talked about characterizing what that might look like for him, he was like, oh, well, the only things that would ever cut it would be making working really hard and doing tons more hours so that I could afford a nice trip to Europe. That's one way, but what do you really need? When we condensed it down, what he really needed was just something different. A change of pace, a change of scene, and some good time and connection with close people. He can access that using going camping, whatever. But it's not just that. This is a gentleman, and he's got an injury at the moment. And he thought, oh, I could never possibly go camping because I couldn't do the things required. I couldn't set up the tent, and it wouldn't be okay for me to do all the manual work and all the manual labor to build the campsite and blah, blah, blah. I pointed out to him that that's irrelevant, because if he can ask a friend to drive him to a nice location, and the friend sets up the tent, and the friend helps him build the campfire, and they just sit around it and talk shit, and maybe he provides some beers and the banter, that's a good exchange. And then he's able to access something that he really wants. Now, all that requires is tapping into the resource of his friend's generosity. Now, I don't know about you, but there are a lot of people in my life that if they reached out to me and said, hey, I've got a bit of an injury, can you take me out camping? I would be there so quickly. I would love that. That would be so nice and fun and rewarding for me. It didn't occur to this gentleman, and that's okay. I don't really blame him. He wasn't thinking resourcefully in that sense. He wasn't thinking about what he could achieve with what he did have access to. Really, this is just a microcosm. This is a microcosm of something much bigger, which, let's say you're trying to start a business. You might be thinking about the lack of money that you have, or you might not have the connections or the following or this or that. But there are so many more people that you could actually ask and reach out to promote or share, or who might even just be interested in what you have to offer. They might want to share, they might want to help, they might want to contribute. But so many of us don't even consider the idea. Maybe we have shame or guilt or who am I to ask such a thing of others? There's all these nonsense narratives that get in the way of real people who might want to help us realize our goals. But for whatever reason, we have created in our own minds and in our hearts these barriers that cut us off from the flow of the things that are coming to us, the things that would make us more. We do not access these resources. We become less as a result. And instead, we should become full by accessing these resources and becoming more resourceful. to go case by case and point by point about over the many ways I've seen this again and again and again, I would be here for another hour or more. The point though is that I want you to hear that whatever you're aiming for, whatever you might like, whatever you might want, I challenge you to just zoom out a little bit more and look a little bit more at what really is around you, that you can access, the tools that you can use to bring whatever you want into reality. It is there. It is more accessible than you realize. So whatever blocks and barriers you have in your way, just put them in the bin and look at all of the things that you do have around you. You have gifts, talents, you have friends, family, your health, brilliant ideas, you're compassionate, you're charming. There are so many things that you have to offer that you can use as resources to bring things back into your space. It's not just money or time or connections. It's not just those things. There's so much more that you have, and you can use it if you just get a little bit more resourceful.